BIS Technology Group. And one of the things that we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and mute everybody. Um, and if unfortunately, make sure to please keep your phone muted, or else we will have to kick you out. With the phone, sometimes it works that way and we can't mute you. So please, to help Philip and Josh out, keep that muted. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please don't hesitate to pop them into the chat bubble. And we are going to work on getting your pizzas ordered. So we may be sending you some messages, just double checking your address if we didn't get in touch with you before the event, or if you didn't put your last name, just confirming if we had multiple people with your first name, which attendee you are. So we want to say thank you so much for coming out today. The topic today is how to be secure and efficient in a crisis or disaster while working remotely. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to Phillip Long. He is the CEO of BIS Technology Group. He is a technologist and entrepreneur, and he specializes in providing technology solutions and security consulting to businesses along the Gulf Coast. He's worked in the IT industry for over 15 years. He has, well, it's really more like 20 now, but he has 600 plus clients from Mississippi to Pensacola, all the way up to Auburn, and he's the current owner of 5 businesses. And he is a certified information system security professional, and this is actually backed by the Department of Defense. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Philip.
Great. Thank you so much, Christy, and thank everybody for joining. I think today is really going to be a very, I want to make it a really meaty topic about what we need to be doing, because I don't even know what the world's going to do. I don't even proclaim that. What is the new normal? I don't know. I think we often forget quickly, so I don't know if this is going to be the new normal. And but I know that remote connectivity and security are very big topics as it relates to making a business perform. And I know that all you guys want your business to perform, so that's what I'm going to help with. And I have brought along a friend, actually really a partner of mine as well. He works for Axcient, Josh Chrisman. He's been around. He's really a very unique guy in that he knows how to interface with clients, and he's very technical, which is really a unique characteristics. He's worked for Dell and Aperture. He's been around the channel, and currently he is the director of sales at Axcient, which is actually, I guess you're really the national account manager now, but you kind of worked your way through as the director of sales. So again, a guy who really gets the technical part. And Axcient is our partner, and they provide a lot of what kind of their theme is protect everything, where backing up your Office 365, getting image-based backups and file and folder cloud-based backups and document sharing and all that. So they provide the solutions for that. So welcome, Josh. Appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and jump right in. I want to make sure that nobody says, they're going to mess around for 15 minutes. Like I usually get on a webinar about 15 minutes late. So we're going to jump right in and get to work. So, kind of talking about this, Josh, from a standpoint of, in our market here on the coast, you're in what, Texas, or are you in Colorado, Josh? Where are you at?
I actually live in Ohio, so we're pretty safe up here.
Okay, but I mean, you still have possible tornadoes, all kind of things are going on in the world, and it seems like we just had a good tropical storm that kind of came through. Of course, we got the coronavirus thing going on, ransomware, bad actors in the marketplace. So in essence, we're in a pretty fast-paced, highly demanding world, and we gotta ultimately get our jobs done no matter where we are. And I want to touch on this next slide here, is really looking at remote working. I don't know how many people on the call are still at home. I still have a couple guys, 3 actually, they're just nervous about this pandemic thing, and I'm trying to be cool, and I don't want to force people to bruise their conscience, so they're working from home. But basically, 90% of organizations now use the cloud of some sort. And 53% of those businesses want to increase that security in use of the cloud by using two-factor authentication. And then also 25% decrease in employee turnover is compared to companies who don't allow their folks to work remotely. And then the third item here is 82% of cybersecurity experts anticipate a data breach at their company due to unsecured devices. So we have this dynamic that's going on. We need to be able to, used to be a long time ago, we could have the, usually the, the owner and maybe the bookkeeper or the sales guy, somebody, that would have to work, remotely or have access to some files. But now, I mean, with this COVID thing, literally you had to pick up your office and get home in a matter of a few days. So it really has put a strain on things. And then as we, give you remote access to your data and your files, now we have to worry about how are we going to protect and keep the other guys out. So talk to me a little bit, Josh, as far as what did Axcient do? What role, how did y'all keep working? Kind of tell me the timeline or whatever.
Yeah, so about half of our company has always been remote. Our headquarters are in Denver, and as soon as it came down that everybody was going to have to work from home, our company was essentially set up for it already with our remote accessible solutions, and so it wasn't too hard of a transition. It's mainly people had to go out and buy desks and chairs and things like that to be able to set up at home, because they never had to before. But as a company, we think we may stay at home. It's just we've been successful like this, and everybody's happy. KPIs have gone up, and so this might become the norm, as they say these days.
Yeah, and you mentioned KPI, key performance index is basically, means by which you measure your staff to see how they're performing, and that's going to be a lot in our organization today. And it's funny because I've seen the same thing. I've seen, not with everybody across the board, but I have definitely seen it with some of our staff. They do better working from home. And so I think that, at the end of the day, as business owners, we really want to think about that from a standpoint of, how do we, get the best juice from the squeeze, and we may have to, think about not having people there. You want to go over, I think this is y'all's slides. You want to take this slide, Josh?
Yeah. When it comes to that work-home life balance, it's the proof's in the pudding, as they say, with being able to work remote, and you're happier, you're more productive. I've always felt that way, especially in regards to being in sales or previously in sales engineering. When I was done for the day, I walked upstairs, was eating dinner. If somebody needed something, I can walk right downstairs and help them with something in a matter of a couple minutes, and then be about my day. So that has certainly become helpful being remote. And when we talk about that, though, there's the risk of now you're not on a network, you're not behind a company's firewall, where, as the slide says, every 14 seconds a business is hit with ransomware. And that's true. We see it all the time, and because we're in a data protection industry, we have the solutions in place to be able to allow businesses to recover quite quickly from that. So there's a great ability to be able to work from home, but precautions need to take place. And DROPBOX is one of those solutions that is widely known. I mean, they're in movies, they're everywhere. It's free. It's a really consumer grade, easy solution to use. But unfortunately, it has a 70% ransomware attach rate to it, because their MO is essentially usability from a consumer perspective, but security isn't built in at the highest level. So there's real risk in using something that is free, like a DROPBOX solution.
Yeah, I always like to add too that if you don't give people the tools that they need, they're going to go out and find their own way of doing it, which can put your office at a lot of risk. If you're end user, if you don't give them the proper tools to be able to get their files at home so that they can work, they will figure out a way to do it. And it's probably not a way that, might be the best way. It can really put your organization at a lot of risk. Another thing is the reality of the facts of what's going on is a bad cyber attack can take you out of the game. And I always say half a winning's not losing, and just the reputation hit could literally take you out. And then also, realistically, a ransomware attack, usually the infection is taking place couple few hours, 4 hours, it's over with. But to recover on average, this is data coming from CoveWare, and it's down for 16.2 days is the number of days. And in reality, most organizations can't cover all the expenses and pay all the people if they have 16.2 days worth of downtime, thus the 60% of companies failing, which is a major risk that's out there. Another thing is, we talked about, you and I have talked about, business email compromise. The FBI, and these are unreported cases from the FBI here. There is so many more cases that never get reported. I mean, this number is really a drop in the bucket, would be my anecdotal response. But between 2016, June 2016 and July 2019, there was 166,349 reports to the FBI of email compromise, total losses of $26 billion. And that's basically where people get your password to your email, and then they act upon your behalf. They collect data, they compromise your business partners, they do all these kind of things. So business email is a major component that's really got to be looked at, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So tell me a little bit about what you're seeing, Josh, from like the expanded workforce. You touched on it a little bit. How are you seeing businesses leverage remote workforces?
Well, making sure that their employees have access to data is first and foremost the priority. VPN, RDP, or if you have some sort of file sync and share solution is the biggest feat to get over. But outside of that, there's also compliancy that you have to take into account. Just because your company may be compliant, now you've removed yourself from that compliant atmosphere, and your home router doesn't have the same firewalls and protection that your company's LAN does. So, using a secure solution to be able to access data is crucial. But there's plenty of tools out there. We have tools, you have tools to provide your clients that can keep them running, for as long as they need to be.
Yeah, that's right. And here's just a little short checklist of items that we think about, that almost like, how I'll just use this as an example. We have a young lady here, and she she just had a baby, and how like you pack the bag before you go to the hospital and all that, so that you're ready at a moment's notice. I think that's kind of the approach that we're going to have to take with this kind of new lifestyle, that being ready at the drop of a hat to be able to have the entire organization out. So here's just some away from the office type checklist items. You want to make sure that computer that you're running that you're going to take home with you is clean, stays patched. It's a lot of times, home computers get used by kids. They're downloading all kind of free this, free that, and a lot of that stuff comes with data stealing information. You also have to think about a strong internet connection, which is another major component you know, being able to work remotely is you got to think about your internet. I happen to live in a horrible location. I have to hotspot my phone, so you may even want to think of alternative internet connections. Another thing is headset. Like if you're going to use a soft phone, I'll pop up on the screen here. This is just something that we use that is very, you know, very good. Like I just mark myself do not disturb. Here's my calls, the people I can see if they're on the phone. And again, it wouldn't matter if I was sitting here or if I was sitting anywhere in the world. I have access to this. I can spin up and start a web meeting to, you know, to do shares. I have different views that I can look as far as a manager view of my staff. These are just the type of tools that I really think for organizations to be productive. Here's another little view where I can see, you know, what is going on out in the place, who's on calls, the status of all my staff, and then also looking at queues like help desk queues and things. So I can really run this organization from sitting anywhere in the world. And these are tools that are so readily available that people don't take advantage of them. So I thought I'd pop that up real quick. Another thing is you know, a headset for your phone, a webcam. Right, man, when this thing first hit, dude, webcams went out the roof and you couldn't even buy them. You couldn't even get them. So you want to get yourself prepared. A form of communication platform like a chat of some sort, you know, Slack, Teams, something that's going to allow you to communicate within your organization. Then also, you know, another big component of that is file sharing, you know, some sort of tool that you're able to share back to the office. What did I miss on that, Josh? Was that a decent list? Did I miss something?
Nope, you hit everything on the head. Like I said, my wife was trying to get a desk and it's been back ordered for like 6 weeks. So everything that would normally be readily available has gone off the shelves, essentially, especially laptops. When it first happened a couple months ago, everybody was running into any store that had a laptop on a shelf and grabbing it and buying it. So there's lots of back orders happening right now.
Yeah. One of the biggest components, really, I'm going to show you guys something here in a second that's kind of cool the way that I work. And but internet options, I mentioned it earlier. I live at, I have an awesome place. I just got it. I live in Silver Hill. It's got a creek that wraps around it. I built a house and I've been in it about a year. I love, love, love where I live. But I hate that all I have is a old school DSL, like 3 megabits down and like 0.25 up. It is horrible. And so I have to hotspot my phone. Luckily, I got a great Verizon tower that's close by, so I get plenty of internet. But you really want to think about your internet options because it's going to be a major component. Good thing for us, Josh, I know you're not in this market, but we have I'm actually partners with them, Unity Fiber. They're really a very cost-effective and very good internet provider here, you know, and so a lot of the clients around here have that, which if you can get that, you're really in a great spot. Let's talk a little bit about communication platforms. What do you guys use?
We standardize on RingCentral for our VoIP soft phone, which offers screen sharing, you know, the calling, the apps on the computer on your phone. And internally we use Slack as an instant messenger.
Yep. So your soft phone, then mobile applications. Does that RingCentral have an app that you can put on your phone?
It does. Yep.
Yep, which means basically, and I do this a lot, you know, we sell a product called 3CX, we call it Cloud Connect, and I kind of showed it a little bit. It's got an app. It's really nice because if you're on a 4G signal, man, you would never know you're not in the office. And also for people who work, you know, maybe they have to take call, or maybe, you know, I have a particular client who is I can't remember if she's a psychologist or psychiatrist, but either way, she has to make calls back to to her patients, and she doesn't want to share her her cell phone number. And people won't answer if it's a blocked number nowadays, so this gives it away that rings back through the office, which is, I think, a major component. A screen share type program so that you're able to Zoom, or we use a product called Screen Connect to connect back to the office, and also we're on GoToMeeting, but some type of app. What do you guys use?
RingCentral has all that baked into it, so
Okay.
we have a RingCentral screen share platform.
Okay. Of course, chat. You said you're using Slack. A lot of people use Teams. There's several of them out there. Again, I showed you kind of how that phone status is important, because again, you're not working. I mean, we had guys in call queues that were all over the place, and when the phone rang, it would ring one guy, he's in Mississippi, one guy's in Florida, and of course I know y'all have the same kind of thing, which is really nice. And you can also see the status of people, and so that's really a good productive thing. Another thing is like call recordings. I'll make note of that, is that you need to be thoughtful about, as you stretch people across the country and in different cities and states, call recordings. Alabama's a one-party state. Florida's a two-party state. If you have staff members working in Florida and you're doing recording calls for coaching, you have to notify the person on the other end. Therefore, you're going to have to put a banner up. So there's some things on that, but recordings are really nice. Of course, conferencing, we talked about that. A good webcam, that was something that is a major component. And then, of course, talk to me a little bit about file access. I know that Axcient has a product, I use it all day long. What's the importance? What do I need to look for in a good? We talked about Dropbox, it being like literally from a ransomware standpoint, they use it a lot. What do we need in a good file share program?
Well, first you need something that's enterprise grade, that offers security and compliance that's needed to secure your proprietary information. But second to that, you need to be able to access it anywhere. You need the ability to have productivity on the go, anywhere you're at, anywhere there's the internet. And the most popular feature that was requested when the COVID pandemic hit was VPN access. And VPN is great. It's really unique in how it works. The problem is it's cumbersome. You're connected in through your router, and then you have to connect into the VPN client back into the office. And for the most part, employees just needed to gain access back to get access to their file server, their files, where our solution actually cloud enables those files so that while you're remote, you can access them anywhere you have the internet, rather than having to go through the cumbersome process of VPN. VPN also comes with a lot of latency, and so if the home router on the network can't handle all of the 20, 30, 40 employees pinging it or trying to connect at the same time, there's lots of drops, which means that you can't readily accessible your data. So we have a solution, you obviously sell it, that eliminates this need while giving you access to the data that you need securely and efficiently.
And logging, one of a couple of things I just love about it from a compliance perspective, it logs who touches what file, it stores versions of files, so that if you were working on an Excel spreadsheet and you blew up the cells, you could restore it from its last time it was saved, or from a year ago or whatever. You can also do remote wiping, which is another thing. If you had a rogue employee, they wouldn't bring you back your laptop or whatever, you can remote wipe it. These are all very important things, because
correct. And as we also talk about being remote and needing to collaborate with team members, it's got the baked in collaborative web editor, so multiple users can work on the same file at the exact same time while chatting through that medium to work on a large document or any sort of document in real time, and it saves as soon as you're done typing. So that revision then syncs down across all the platforms, all the users, all the endpoints that the solution is tied to as well.
So those are the type things that you need in a file access. And I'll say what I said earlier. If you do not give your people ways to do things safely and securely, they will find their own ways and most likely will not be. Here's another product. I'm a member of IT Nation Evolve, and Axcient is a big subscriber of that. But basically, they make you go through 4 types of plans. One of them being your legacy plan, and I'll be completely transparent with my audience. I turned 52 years old this week. I mean this year. And I was like, wow, man, my life is just flying away. One thing I don't want to do, I need to really pay attention to where my time is going. So this is the actual live dashboard that I wanted to show you. I'm rolling this out within my company. This is a product that handles productivity and security. And I don't have time. It's a whole conversation unto itself, but you can look over a particular time frame, and you can look and see people and their overall productivity, how much time, and it classes applications. It takes screenshots. One of the things that we're very concerned about here is security. And this, when fully deployed within our organization, I'll have my technical staff with screenshots being taken so that I can see if they were, how long, hey, did they get on this computer? Did they get on that computer? Very important stuff for us. And then also it has the most used applications, the most unproductive applications. This is just on a today view. And then like some of this is actually like that. I need to class that. That's our payroll service. That needs to get classed as productive. Just really started rolling this out within our organization. You can look at what people are doing in real time. And I want to show one more thing and move on, because this is just a way that you can make your people know. I don't know how many times I have had clients of mine say, I don't know what the heck these guys are doing all day. Well, this is the way to know, and I'm gonna end it with on some ways to roll it out within your organization, because this again can feel very much like Big Brother. But I wanted to show you this alarm thing from a security standpoint. This excites me too. I can do security audits. I can also do USB. Insider threats are big. People stealing stuff off of USB. This is a way that you can actually track that and know what files moved. It's a way that you can watch USB, and then as well as activities. And even for like file sharing applications, you can come in here, and if they have Dropbox loaded and things like that, you can get an alert. This is what I was just playing with this morning on Netflix. Like for instance, I can make it tell me if somebody's been on Netflix, and if they're basically, I had it set for if they've been on there 10 minutes. I can even pop up a display to say Netflix isn't on there. I can capture screenshots of it. I can actually send an email. I could even set a rule up to say, hey, that it'll actually not allow that computer to go to that particular website. So very powerful. But as I'll say, what I said earlier is you want to be real careful how you roll this out, because it's something that I wouldn't sneak. It runs silent, but I wouldn't sneak that on anybody's computer. I think that, again, if you're working with people that want to be productive, like hopefully everybody is, the only people who won't like it are the ones who aren't productive, but you still want to be real sensitive. We can talk offline about this particular application. Any comment you want to throw in there on that? I don't know if you guys do anything like that.
We have some security software that has this functionality. I don't think we really use it. All of our software internal has ways to run reports if somebody actually wants to see productivity.
Yep.
When you logged in, how often you've made changes to things, that sort of stuff.
Yep. And again, some people see it like Big Brother, so you got to be real careful how you roll that out. But we're launching. We've already done soft launch of some stuff where like this right here is my VDI desktop, which is basically a desktop that you can have access to from literally anywhere. And this is something that I am basically playing around with. But literally, I could log in to this, and most of the time, whenever you're working remotely, and this is actually in our data center. This screen that you're seeing is in our data center, and our servers are in that same data center. So one of the things that's kind of challenging with working remotely is the user interface, right? The slowness, but you can see they really have that cooked. This is a video trailer of that Thor movie, and again, this is streaming from New York, and that's pretty good. That's pretty good graphics on it. So that's something too that I think is important. And from a security standpoint, the data is in the data center as well as the application. So literally, I am just seeing the screenshots of what's going on there. So no data is actually leaving the data center. I think it's really the ultimate in security as well as availability. Your phone system can be put in here, your Office 365 applications, your file sharing app, everything can be contained to where literally you could sit down in a web browser and securely connect. So that's another kind of real deal thing that I think is very relative to the marketplace right now. All right, keep moving here. Best practices for on the go. We talked about utilize the cloud. Of course, we want to do that. Download mobile apps that make things available when you're not in the office. Having some of these, there's a lot of good apps out there that you want to have readily available on your phone, like your phone system and things like that. Talk to me a little bit about the why you don't want to use public Wi-Fi.
Well, it really comes down to you don't know where it's actually coming from. The restaurant may advertise it to be their own, but anybody can spoof the Wi-Fi network that you're connecting to, and as soon as you connect into it, essentially you've handed over the keys to the castle. So you really have to be wary of it. The best thing and most secure thing to do is, if you're working on documents that are proprietary, and that shouldn't be leaked, is to connect in to your network through VPN. That way it's a secure connection. You can work on information without the risk of it being hijacked, or use a secure, again, file sync solution that allows you access to your data in a secure fashion.
Yep. That's right. Wi-Fi is just dangerous. Never, ever, ever, ever use public Wi-Fi. I talked about this earlier, having that readily available internet backup option. And a lot of times it can literally be hotspotting your phone, because nowadays, I believe all phone carriers, you can have a hotspot on where you're using it for data, and you can still have a voice conversation. So that's another one. Another thing from a productivity standpoint is having some form of daily huddle. We were doing it, using our screen share type application, and we would touch base. I think Vern Harnish talked about the stand-up meeting. You guys, it's not, again, it's more of a sync up so that you look at everybody, you kind of engage your day, you go over your schedule, they go over their schedule. These are 5, 10, 15-minute meetings. Is another really big way to keep people engaged within the team. We had some of our guys in our peer group were doing two a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. You guys do any of that?
Yep. We have one in the morning and one in the evening, primarily just for the sales members to discuss, the current initiatives of the day for the morning, and then the evening huddle is about what did you accomplish and what was the roadblock and what do you need help on. So yeah, every day, and then multiple ones during the week for various parts of the organization.
Mm-hmm. Establish real hours. Anybody who's successful knows that routines are the things that make you successful. Have a to-do list. Don't just roll out of bed. My kids, my youngest daughter, she was doing some things where she was you know, getting out of bed like 5 minutes before her 5 minutes before her class started. Don't do that. Get up, get yourself a routine. Managing to-do lists. Anybody who's successful is going to have a to-do list, and they're going to knock out, you know, 3 items, you know, 3 before 10 or whatever. Setting your phone status. Do y'all monitor phone status where you guys are?
Yeah, we have some integrations with our sales platform that allows you to edit the phone status, and then for assistance, you know, it can be monitored for coaching sessions and stuff like that. But yep, our solution all changes status as soon as you flip it on. It integrates with Outlook as well, so if a meeting comes up, it'll then show you as busy, that sort of thing.
Yep, those are really helpful whenever you're working remotely. And here's something that that Christy came up with that I thought was really cool. Is looking at, you know, how to stay safe. You know, set up activity tracking. Stay safe and productive, really. Encrypt your devices. With Windows 10 now, it comes with BitLocker, so that, you know, you can actually encrypt your drives on your mobile devices, so that if they were lost, people can't access those files. You want to do a VPN or some form of screen connect, like I was showing you that connection that I had earlier. That's a very secure connection. You do not want to open ports and firewalls. I'll touch on that in a second. That is one of the big quadrants where the ransomware guys are making a lot of money right now. You want to update your applications, run your patches on your machine. Have a tool that does that. Multi-factor or two-factor authentication is another huge component. We're going to send this slide deck out to anybody who wants it, because this is, I mean, this is the heart of what you want to be doing. Educate on cybersecurity. Too many people are not spending time training their staff, and if you were to be caught into a bad situation, you know, maybe you made that big security whatever, that's called due diligence, and you had them sign it. But if you're not doing periodic things, not doing the due care part of it, you leave yourself exposed, not only from a legality standpoint, but also from a real how it happens thing. People, you know, people have to be made aware. And then you want to lock your devices when you stand up from your computer. On a Windows PC, you hit the Windows key and L, and it will lock your screen. It's a little shortcut there. And then finally, you want to know what your policies are about internet usage, bring your own device, telecommunicating. Many of these things have to be signed by your staff in order for them to be effective. I don't know, you want to add some stuff? We got bring your own device. Add something there for me. What did I miss?
I think, honestly, I think you've touched on essentially everything you would need to be secure and efficient working from home.
Yeah. And I tell you, man, I meet with clients all the time, and they tell me what a struggle it is to do this stuff. I give our clients all of these. There's about, for an average business, not an attorney, but I am a CISSP, there's about 10 or 12 documents that you got to have in order to secure yourself from, you know, even you can't know everything, but if you've had your staff sign some documents and go over that with them about, you know, bring your own device policy, what's your internet usage policy, what are things that are going on. I got stories I could tell about. I've been professional witness for on some cases, and you would be surprised how the judge will rule against a business because basically the end user said, I didn't know that, and the business owner had no way of saying, yeah, I showed them that and they knew better. All right, so I want to get into a little bit deeper on some things about what I'm seeing from a security perspective. And, you know, how do we keep our business up and going? We don't want to be one of those 60% of businesses that get, you know, something bad happen to them and they can't do it. This right here is what we call our, the 3-level approach, where we have, prepare, prevent, and prevail. And it's comprehensive, in where most IT companies focus on the prevention side of things. And it's a 3-pronged approach, and it's going to take all 3 of these areas to get it where you can really be successful. So talking a little bit about preparation, you want to know where you stand before you get started. Franklin Covey, start with the end from the beginning. We really want to look at dark web scanning to know what information about your company is out there in the wild. You also want to work on your staff with cybersecurity education, as well as some, like those documents that I talked about earlier, some of which your staff need to do. You need to have some form of testing to see their skill set as to how they can recognize a threat. And then also some form of employee vulnerability assessment, I think, is essential, because what we find is that there's always, clicky Carol or whatever. You got somebody on your team, everybody does, that has the, that they're going to be your highest security risk. Well, you really need to know who that person is, because you want to take a position to know how you can protect yourself. A lot of information right there. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, knowledge is power, so being prepared for all the worst case scenarios is key.
Yeah, that's really something that I see so often that is missed, and that stuff is not that hard to do. Now, the prevention is really a bigger conversation, and it's going to be relative to the industry that you're in. And, I work with all types of clients in all different industries, and they're held to different levels of compliance. But I'll say this, as far as it relates to a layered security approach, is that defense in depth strategy is so essential. I was reading a report from Q4 of last year, and like 78% of computers that got ransomwared, is servers, computers, whatever, they had a up-to-date antivirus running on that machine. So, and I hear people tell me all the time, we live in this market, we're a little sleepy down here as far as security and technology goes. And I hear them, oh yeah, I got, free AVG on my computer or whatever. I got Norton on my computer. As much as I wish I had a client tell me this has been over just whenever security was really starting to be a deal, where he was like, well, why isn't there just one product that can protect me? And I'm laboring this just for a minute because I really want our audience to hear this. There are, oh God, I forget, 3,200 new threats born every hour. And it's such a list of threats that there is no product that can protect you completely. You have to have that defense in depth strategy. And I would even go further to say that you don't even want to have like the same company. Sophos is a company that does security, and they have firewalls, they have desktop security, they have all this stuff. I don't even want the same company in my stack. I want to have different security pieces made by different security companies with different security philosophies, because those threats are born so often. They're called zero-day threats, meaning that a threat came out before the filter knows about it. So you want to have different companies with different philosophies on how they're looking at your traffic. That's really more of an offline conversation, but I labored that for a minute because I think it's so important. You want to have something proactively monitoring and managing that. You want to have some form of business coaching in the event that something does go south, and have security in on that. And then you really want to have somebody, a senior engineer, somebody who is your security officer. It's required within a lot of compliance, but you need, even if you're not held by compliance, you need to have somebody with, that's their, that's kind of one of their responsibilities. I'm not going to belabor this, but these are going to be given out. I would really look at this because our defense in depth strategy is very focused on people, and having people working from home makes it a lot more sensitive. These are the types of things that you need to have in place. I'd be happy to talk offline on that. Of course, this all can be found in your booklet. And then finally, I wanted to talk the PREVAIL portion of it. You need to have some form of disaster recovery. And disaster recovery is what we're talking about now. I got to pick up this whole office, and I need to have them working in the morning, and I need to have a way that I can do that. You need to have a plan for that, and don't make it too hard. Get with some folks on your team. We'd be happy to help and talk through it and get it written down. A response team when something, if it does happen. Cyber liability insurance. I guarantee you right now, and I got money in my pocket on this bet, that, I don't know, I think 60-something people signed up for this. I bet you 30 of them do not have cyber liability insurance. And that's a safe bet. I bet really, I could probably even push the limit and say 70% of the clients that I meet with do not have cyber liability insurance. It's not expensive. It is something that you absolutely have to have in order to be able to win. And as we stretch this thing out further, having people with data strewn all over the place, your risk is going up. We talked about it earlier, that, in 2011, it was not 2011, 2020, it's like every 14 seconds. In 2021, every 11 seconds, a breach is happening. I think that's 28% if I did my math right in my head, 30%. The risk is going up all the time, and if you don't have it, and then also, what do you do if you do have a breach? You need to have some public relations coaching. You need to have a couple of items on hand. So that's a lot of words right there, but those are very meaningful words. I hope y'all heard my passion about that, because I see some clients that are so much at risk, and they really need to get themselves in a position to win. This is some good information that is in your booklets. We're happy to give you these templates, things on how you can build out some stuff, business continuity, how you can do a incident security response. What do you do if you've had a breach? There's some steps there. And you don't need a big fancy document on letterhead. You need a very practical document on what you're going to do so that you can pull that thing up and go to executing. You want to weigh in on any of that? That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, our industry is obviously in the data protection side of that layer, which is sort of your last line of defense in reality. And the cost of having a proper BCDR, business continuity solution in place, is far less expensive than going through a ransomware process and paying the fee, because you don't just have the fee that you have to pay to get your data back. It's an if you're going to get the data back, but it's also how long did you try to recover without paying the ransom. So that could be hours and days, and the cost of downtime can be tremendous. It's always higher than everybody thinks it is when we go through this exercise. So, being prepared and having a plan in place for DR is going to make everybody's lives a lot easier.
Yep, that's right. That's one of the biggest areas, and I like how you said basically a backup is really your last line of defense. It is part of what we call our security solution stack. It goes backups to us or security, and then, talking about that business continuity plan, understanding some components of it, you can go ahead and take this one. I know this is your way up in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's really what are the machines that we're protecting? We call them protected systems or protected, servers or workstations. What are they? Which ones are classified as absolutely critical? Who needs to access them? And in that failover event, if it happens, are there enough resources to allow the users to be productive? And how much will that event impact the business, right? So all that needs to be taken into consideration. And with the solution that we have, you can do a test of this, and you can make this real world, so that it's well understood what that whole process is, what the experience is going to be like, what access is going to be like, to make sure that everybody's on board with what they're going to do in the event that it happens. And it's not necessarily it's not an if, it's a when, because at some point everybody gets hit with something, whether it's a failed hard drive or a ransomware encryption attack. So having this in place is going to make everybody's lives a lot easier again.
Yeah, and that's right. And I think it's like statistically now, I think that some of the people that aren't doing what they should be doing get hit more often, but I think it's about a 20% chance per year. So I mean, if you're going to be in business the next 5 years, you got a chance of getting hit. So I can't stress that enough. I mean, I met with some guys, I said this to my team whenever all this started. I said, all these people are going home, they're opening ports in their firewall, they're just remote desktoping in, and really the only layer of security they have is their username and password, and it's open to the world to have them scan and just throw passwords at it. They have no alerting to know that they're getting 1,000 passwords thrown at their machine. And I said, you watch, we're going to see a huge spike. And the Maze gang, the guys that are really exploiting the open RDP ports, the open ports and firewalls for remote connectivity. Yeah, I read SANS Institute, that's up 30% because people did not do they just didn't set themselves up to work remotely. I can't stress enough that 2 attorney groups called me within the last 2 weeks, and they were compromised. And so it's happening. All right, so some very just brief, I'm gonna run through this pretty quick because I want to be very respectful. I want to have time for Q&A time too. But whenever we're looking at the planning, this is where everybody gets all messed up. They get all nervous right here. It's pretty simple. What are you trying to protect with your continuity plan? Understanding what's critical, what's not critical, how long, I call it, it's recovery time objectives, meaning, how long can you be without that system? And, I always hear people and they're like, yeah, that do their payroll in-house. Yeah, we could be without our system, for 2 weeks, as long as payroll, we don't have to do payroll, or 2 days if we don't have to do payroll. Well, that means that we have to, understand what is our most highly critical application or process, and then we have to then build a solution around that. But don't make it too hard, I guess is what I'm saying. Identify individuals who need to be part of that business continuity team. Got to include their roles, responsibility, and up-to-date contact information. You'd be surprised that people, swap out a cell phone and nobody knows about it or whatever. They're not able to get in touch with them. Another thing is really looking deeply at where your risk lives. And being able to identify and categorize it. I'm actually going after this meeting to do just that with a client. I had a client call in last week and wanted to meet about that. They're like, they don't even know where to start. And that's something that's, you got to know where your assets are. What are your processes? What do you got to have? and you got to evaluate that. Then again, the the interlinking between their business functions and those dependencies. If I don't have this piece, and again, if you break your business down into kind of that model of pieces, you're going to be able to determine which pieces you can do without for what period of time, and kind of go from there. And then that business impact analysis that we spoke about earlier, where understanding how deep that's gonna hurt you upon each department or each piece of your organization. And then working, looking at workflows and tasks. Lot of really great information on these slides. And again, we're going to share all this with you guys, and we can help walk you through this. But these are really, really, really important components of being able to, again, pick up and work from anywhere at any time. And once you get this done, it's going to be really pretty easy, because you're ultimately going to be you're going to have tested it to make sure that everybody is educated on it, and that it's able to work. I would say testing this at least once a year to make sure that that you're up to date and that you're ready to go. All right, I'm going to turn this over to you right now as far as, what is it that you're talking about? This is kind of a signature thing that you guys do from air gapping on backups. And why is that important?
Yeah, so we have created within our backup technology something that we're calling AIRGAP, and it's an entirely separate network and storage layer from the actual backups of the protected systems. This happens both in the cloud and locally on the device that stores the backups. So, in a nutshell, quickly, just for time purposes, if a bad actor, and we call it, that's a hacker, right, gains access somehow to either the cloud or the local device where the backups sit, we allow them to think that they have actually deleted the data, but in reality, that deleted never actually goes away and can be recovered very, very quickly. So this is really unique technology to Axcient. Nobody else has this. It's actually been used often in recent times due to ransomware and hacker attacks. So it's been tried, true, and tested, and we actually had this white-hatted, and nobody's ever been able to crack it. So we're pretty proud of this technology.
Yeah, and in very basic terms, guys, if you have your backup and you're basically backing up with some kind of a program and you've got a USB plugged into your server, the chances without this type of technology of that ransomware attack being able to attack the primary server, it will also be able to attack the plugged in backup because it doesn't have an air gap. So that's one way to think about it. Whereas if you think about what they've done is they have basically, there's no way to get from the primary source of data to the backup source of data. And you kind of have it really where it takes two member of your kind of upper end teams to actually delete that. It's got like a 2-key system, right?
Yeah, only a couple members of our highest level in our support team has access to it. So even if the hacker or anybody tried to spoof who they are as a part of being a part of that company, there's many layers that they have to go through to be able to actually gain access to the data. So it's quite secure.
Yeah, and I've been with you guys for ever. I can't remember, over 10 years probably. Never lost a file. So that's pretty, it's pretty, at the end of the day, if you said that if I had a backup running and the config said, yeah, I got the file's always been there, never been corrupted, never been damaged, which is really a testament for how long we've been doing, we've been in business, and how many times we've had to resort to backup. Going to backup is not uncommon. It could be just a simple click of the button of somebody, oh, I didn't mean to delete that file, all the way to somebody's gotten ransomware. So that's a real testament. Let's talk a little bit about Dropbox. Give me some risk of Dropbox.
Well, there's a multitude of risks. First, it's what we call a consumer grade solution. It's been designed to be very user friendly, but there's very little, if any, security involved in it. So the links that are being transmitted they're not secure. So there's the data theft side of it, data loss. There's not a true what we call business continuity factor to Dropbox. It's there just to suffice for being a file sync and share that you can get, that freeware type stuff. They don't have good revision controls, so the corrupt data happens, and there's not a lot of ease of use to get it restored back. There's a multitude of reasons. If your company needs compliance rules, has compliance rules to maintain, things like HIPAA or SOX, you're not going to get it from them. As well as from a support perspective, you're not going to have a lot of success trying to access support to resolve your issue if you have one. So, it's really, like, again, a consumer grade solution. It's been designed to look pretty, but not function from a business continuity perspective to allow accessibility anywhere, everywhere, securely.
Yeah, that's and that's the reality. And I'll go back to what I've said twice already, the fact that if you don't give people things, they will come up with their own way of doing it. And if your network is not properly configured where you know what applications are running on it, literally somebody could take and download their personal Dropbox. Just go to the web portal, pop open the screen, go to Dropbox, and if you got a fast internet connection, they literally can drag that information over into their Dropbox and sync it right out of your office. That's the malicious way of thinking. But even for the good way, if a person thinks they're trying to be more productive and they say, I need those files at home, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna figure out a way to make it happen. And then something happens to their personal PC, it's infected, or it has some kind of password stealing thing, and now all of a sudden your documents are now out in the wild. That's the loss of accountability portion of that is real, and it happens, and there's really no way to know. I always say that when you're looking at a security, there's a difference between a security incident and a security breach. Whereas if you cannot make forensic determination that it was a security incident, meaning no data was lost, then it's classed as a security breach, because you have to you got to somehow figure it out. So there's a lot of things where you need these logs in order to meet that type of compliance kind of stuff. Hey, let's talk to me a minute. There's another thing, I don't have a slide on it, but another product, Cloud Finder, and it backs up your Office 365. My understanding, it's in Microsoft. Microsoft doesn't back up your data, right?
Yeah, it's sort of a misnomer of hey, it's Microsoft. Of course, my data is secure and it's there and it's backed up. And in reality, Microsoft, in their MSA, they guarantee uptime of their facilities, and Outlook, they don't guarantee backup, and they actually recommend a third-party backup. As well as the retention policies baked in Outlook are so low, they don't suffice for things like human error or corruption or malware or phishing emails, things like that happen still even in Office 365. There's actually a 36% attach rate to phishing emails through ransomware in Office 365. So if that were to happen, there's no real easy way to recover your emails or your SharePoint or OneDrive files or what have you from Office 365. And because the entity is so large, again, it comes down to you're not going to get a whole lot of good support from them, because you're not paying tens and twenties of thousands of dollars to be a partner of theirs. So this solution comes in and does a cloud-to-cloud backup of everything Microsoft 365, and can be recovered and restored very, very quickly with our indexing. So again, it's peace of mind, and keeps you compliant and regulated as far as retention and backup of that data as well.
Yeah, that's another major component. That's part of our stack of the products that you guys provide for us. And I use, I like Barracuda, their cloud-based web filtering. And if you think about it, again, I said this earlier about the defense in depth strategy, having your data looked at and protected by different vendors. This is a perfect example. Email being, you know, whatever stats you want to look at and kind of fluctuate, but 70–80% of your risk is coming in on email. We use the Barracuda to do the scanning of the mail on the front end with what they call advanced threat protection, where they check the links. Basically, they sandbox the link, they click it to make sure that it's secure and safe, as well as looking inside the attachments for risk, you know, that could be, you know, potentially damaging, and also the ability to send secure email, which is very important, because I don't know how many times I've seen you know, the bookkeeper send out the Excel spreadsheet to the 401k people in clear, you know, just bam, no encryption, no anything, and literally it has everything that is very valuable on every employee in the organization. You know, socials, date of births, addresses, phone numbers, emails, the whole nine. And then, of course, Office 365 is holding the mail, and then we use Cloud Finder from you guys to back it up. So at any point there, I've got my mail being properly handled and properly taken care of, and really properly having the risk assessed on it, and recognizing that that is a major form of, you know, security breach is happening within email these days. All right, so really we kind of get down to the you know, the phase where we've presented a lot of information here, and I understand more information, and I see some people in their questions here, or whether they're going to get a slide deck. Yeah, we're going to send every bit of this stuff out to you guys, because I'm a firm believer in that much more has been lost and cost more from indecision than decision. Mediocre plans executed well end in great results. I can give you a 20+ year work history here at BIS that I have not probably made some of the best plans, but I've continued to not be afraid to make a plan. And I encourage everyone on the call. We spent basically an hour and 15 minutes here working through this stuff. So there's a lot of information here. We need to take and make a few action items. And you know, I just encourage you, don't stay in the dark about a crisis, preventing everyone from going to the office. Don't look the other way. Don't keep yourself in a position of risk because you're scared to know something. And for us, we want to be able to help you guys, and we're offering a free 4-point crisis readiness inspection. This includes a network vulnerability summary, as well as a backups review with report, business continuity roadmap to, you know, discuss what that looks like from a standpoint of you know, of how long can you really be down, helping you go. I'd love to take every one of you guys on this meeting that I'm going to have this afternoon, because this is exactly what I'm going to do with these guys. And it's going to be, I mean, it is very valuable. It's not because I offer it, it's because it really is. As a business owner, you need to know where your risk lives, and you need to know, you know, what it looks like, because if you don't know, who the heck is going to know? You also need to have your governance documents, those documents that I've been speaking of, that you need to have some of your staff sign some of them. You also need to have a report with your employees' test scores, so that you can tell what's going on. I'm also going to throw in a copy of a book I wrote about really, you know, things that you need to know, really buyer beware kind of stuff about as it relates to technology. And so network evaluation, a business continuity review, as well as a plans and policies analysis, and employee training for all of your staff. Really a lot of information that is really good. That's normally $1,300, but for anybody who's on this call, all you got to do is fill out the survey and request for it. And in doing so, you also will get a chance to win a $50 gift card to Big Daddy's Grill down here. So I think at this point, we're open for questions. Christy, we have any questions?
Absolutely. If you click one more time, it's going to give them the URL. Yeah, guys, so we're doing a giveaway for a $50 gift card to Big Daddy's. Just go to askbis.com/event-survey, and it'll just help us know what topics you're looking at in the future for events, and things like that. Also, just really fast before we get to questions, I saw a few callers on here with no names. If you could send us an email to events@askbis.com and let us know you attended. Everybody else should be getting their pizzas pretty soon. But let's go on to questions. So we had a few come in. One of them, how can you tell if your employees are working while at home?
Well, I think that is a great question. It's something so real and so relative to, that whole scheme of things. And I think that ActiveTrack software that I was showing earlier, I can demo it for somebody and show them what it'll do, but it has a real-time window on it. I can pull it back up real quick and even kind of show you a little bit on it, but that to me is the most powerful tool that I've seen, and it's really cost effective, and it's it'll absolutely tell you. I'm pulling up mine right now, and like if you were to want to look at what I am doing in real time, like this dashboard right here, I can click on real time, and it'll take a minute because it's actually streaming the videos. Christy Thompson, this is actually the link that she's on. She's editing a ticket in our software right here. There's the link. Kevin is out of the office. His machine's locked. Lori is using snipping tool right now on her machine. And these screens, it takes it a minute to pull all these live screens, but it's capturing every 20 seconds. It's capturing the screenshot that you can go back and catalog. And then you can see on mine, it'll come up here in a second. And of course, I'm on Google Chrome, I'm on ActiveTrack, I'm on the real-time screen. So you can see exactly what folks are doing. And also, if you're in a compliance industry, I'll make note that it'll actually do redacting of the images that have personal identifiable information in them. It'll put black boxes over them. So you don't have to worry about somebody getting access to these files. So that would be my the most impressive product I saw so far is that.
Okay. Should I let our employees use their own devices?
Josh, why don't you weigh in on that?
So if you have the proper technology in place, that can be okay. And due to the last minuteness of what happened, it was hard for a company to go out and acquire, if you had 20 employees that came into an office, 20 laptops to send them home with. So it was sort of use at your own risk. But if they're already using it, if they're being productive with it, instilling that the proper protocols and security and tools are in place can keep them compliant and the data and their access to the data secure. So in my opinion, yes, you may have a different opinion of that, Phil, but I would say at this point in the game, unless there's a strategic plan to facilitate an MSP or company approved device, it's kind of wild, wild west in a sense.
Yep. I think it's a necessary evil. I say evil, I mean, only in the way when I think security, when I think of productivity, it goes the other way. It's a highly productive way to have people, you leverage yourself a lot more. I mean, think about back in the day. I mean, I know when I was a kid, I don't know how in the world compared to how my kids make it happen. I don't know how in the world we even found anybody on Friday night. It's amazing. Just the power of it is so productive but yeah, the risk of it is so great. So I would say, yeah, you got to do it, but you need to have a minimum of, you need to have a minimum of them sign that bring your own device policy I spoke about earlier, because you have to have them acknowledge the risk in order to cover your butt, because if you do it wrong, you could really hurt yourself.
Yep. So we've got 2 more questions. How do we know if our backups are running currently?
That's a great question. How would you know, Josh? How would you answer that?
Well, from my perspective, talking as an MSP, so talking for BIS in this sense, our technology has metrics and notifications baked into it that alert the MSP that the technology is actually running. So successful backups, errored backups, missed backups, it's all being there. There's notifications everywhere, essentially. And if there's an issue, automated support tickets can be generated to alert the staff that there's an issue that needs to be resolved. Another really nice feature when we talk about our image-based backup solution, it actually takes that protected system and boots it every single morning and takes a screenshot of that login screen to assure BIS and the user that it's actually a usable image if there were ever to be a need of failover. So there's plenty of precautions that are in place already to ensure that backups are happening, and if not, somebody's being notified of that.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. It's all about the alerting. And again, Axcient is one of the reasons why they're our premier partner on protection of data, is because they take it so seriously. These guys had I think y'all had a CISO on board way long time ago. I mean, and that's a certified information system security officer. That's one, just for the record, that's one tier lower than my certification. But still, most companies, this has been a long time ago. I can't even remember how long ago I met him, and I was impressed before I had my CISSP. And he was one of the guys that encouraged me to do it. And again, because y'all take security very, very, very seriously, because this data is very valuable. I often say that we have to recognize that our data is more like an oil well, and I think we think of it a lot of times like money is like a tank of oil. You could sell it or buy it or sell it, but data, you can do so many things with it. You can, I can do fraudulent charges to a credit card. I can establish credit. I can fraud health insurance. I can file your taxes. I can sell that data to somebody else. It's a never-ending source of revenue, and it's something that I just always try to really reiterate that to folks.
Okay. And our last question here. How can I determine how long it will take us to recover?
That's a very great question. And I'll let you, I'll tell you what, I'll take a crack at it, and then we'll let Josh jump on that. But there's really 2 terms, and they're technical terms. One is recovery time objective, which simply means how long will it take? And this is what I tell clients all day is, they don't sell servers at Walmart. You can't run to Best Buy and buy a server. So if you had, sparks fly out the back of your server and it was bad, and even if you had your data readily available to you, you still have to go get a piece of hardware or repair the piece of hardware that you have. Then you have to load the applications. Then you have to load the configuration. Then you have to load the software. Then you have to load the data. And if you have a cloud-based backup that's not image-based, your recovery time, or how long it would take, is normally literally 2 to 4 days. And so that's a thought. That's something that you need to run down the questions on to make sure. And then the other is recovery point objective, which means how far would I have to go back in order to get a good backup? Let's say you're running QuickBooks and you back up once a night, okay? And it's at midnight and you knock off at 5, you work from 8 to 5. Well, let's say that now it is 11:50 a.m. Central Time. You've been working since 8 o'clock and you had a major QuickBooks malfunction that corrupted the database. You're ultimately losing about 4 hours worth of time. So that's your recovery time, point. That's about 4 hours worth of data. That's your recovery point objective would be up to, let's say, 8 hours because you work, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. All right, clean that up for me, Josh.
Yeah, so this sort of goes back into your conversation and an exercise you can go through with your clients about the cost of downtime. And essentially what this does is it highlights the fact that if I was down for an hour or 2 or 3, how much money am I losing, whether it's revenue that's being brought into my company or the cost of salaries for employees that are doing nothing. And that is one way you can determine what your RTO and RPO need to be. When you're running databases, whether it's QuickBooks or SQL or Exchange, those are usually high transacting databases, lots of information going in and out of those. And so you would want typically a more frequent backup, a more frequent RPO, because as in the example, you would not want to potentially lose 4 hours worth of transactions because that could equate to thousands or tens of thousands of dollars worth of revenue or money generating activity. So and then next to that, the RTO, the recovery time objective, that goes into the resources you've allocated for that failover. If that server dies, sparks flying out of it, as the example says again, how fast can I recover is all going to depend upon the resources that you have available for that recovery process. And that, again, is an exercise that BIS can go through to determine what the needs actually are. But yeah, you answered it absolutely correct there, Phil.
I think you added a lot to it. I actually wrote a white paper on the downtime, the cost of downtime. There's a formula in that. It's in our events page. We can share it with you guys, but there's a quick formula that you can kind of determine how much your organization is losing, and you don't even have to use really fancy accounting math. If you just look at how much you're paying your payroll, if you look at how much money you're making a year, you can do some quick division and you can have a number, addition, multiplication, and addition. You can kind of know. But yeah, knowing how much it costs helps you derive at that. Or you can call me because I'm real good at that. I've been doing it a long time. I'm always happy, to help.
Well, we had another question come in through chat. They said, we have many layers of on-prem redundancy of backups, but if we went with the disconnected backup solution or whatever it was called, what would the setup look like for us? It seems if there is a Trojan or malware embedded that hasn't launched, it would get backed up to the disconnected backup, right?
All right. Now, how is Axcient going to handle a piece of malware embedded in that backup?
I assume the disconnected backup.
Yeah, it's the replicate. With the image-based backup.
Yeah, the image-based backup. So, yeah, image-based backups run on a concept of garbage in, garbage out. So, if there's garbage data there, the backup is going to have garbage data in it, so it's not just a backup conversation here. This is where there's other layers of threat and prevention detection tools that can detect hidden malware or sleeping malware before they've enacted their task, as well as there's some other tools that we have in place that can actually prevent certain executables from running and spreading the encryption through your system. So, for example, if the latest encryption executable is we'll call it dot encrypt, that can be implemented for all of the protected systems and will prevent anything from actually spreading with that executable, because that's how ransomware works, right? So if it does actually get through it, the way the software works is, if that data that has been encrypted and is now corrupt, if it's already corrupt, it doesn't matter if you can recover that data. So with the versioning history and the restore points as a part of the RPO conversation, you simply go back to a point in time when you have good data, and then you start from that point moving forward. Okay, that's really that's the alternative, because it's either you start from there and you move forward, or you have nothing. And so that's just essentially how that conversation happens and how that software works.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. And we'll say it another way, same thing he just said. It really gets down to like how many, we'll call them snapshots, or how many backups throughout the day are you getting is one aspect of what you're doing. And then how many are you keeping is another aspect. With this type of backup, and it's maybe an offline conversation that we can have to really get your answer to you. But between those two, a lot of times I see people and they literally have, oh yeah, I've got a week's worth of backups. That's not enough, because something bad could happen. And, we normally recommend at least 6 months, probably a year. I would feel more comfortable with having image-based backups where I could go restore from any one of those images. Maybe you're getting a snapshot or a time, a space and time backup every 2 to 4 hours during the day. I could go and pick any one of those and restore completely the entire image from any one of those, so that you could have yourself into a position to where we're not having data loss, and it's going to lessen the impact of that that buried Trojan. But you're on the right track. I'll give you that. As far as the way that it's really happening is, with these MITRE attacks, and y'all could look up MITRE, that's what they're doing, is they're living on a system for up to 100 days and exfiltrating data. And and yeah, you would be capturing a compromised system for 100 days. And if you were to really have to, lay claim to what happened from a forensic standpoint, that backup would be a very powerful tool in helping the good guys find out how the bad guys did it. That's a bigger conversation, but I think that a bunch of backups and having them kept for a long time is a big plus in that type of scenario.
Great. Well, that's all the questions we have today. So everyone, please, please, please make sure to fill out that survey, askbis.com/event-survey. I've also put it in the chat. Yeah, I'll turn it back over to Philip.
Yeah, we want to, of course, I want to thank very much our guest, Josh. He's always been a good partner, and they provide really a great product. We're always here to help you guys. I mean, our goal as a company really is to accelerate. Technology should be an accelerant to business. We want to be able to help you grow your company, how to protect your company, and that's really what I get up every day, and I try to, I call it moving the ball. I want to increase our capabilities as a company for services that we can offer to you guys, and then also provide a lot of value. And, if you fill out that survey and you want to have a conversation around where you are, I'd be happy to, to have that no obligation kind of conversation. I can, again, pull in resources like from the Joshes of the world to develop a particular plan. You're really at this point, we've been doing this a long time, and most of the businesses that we deal with, we have a solution already made. I mean, really, it's just a matter of deploying it. So want to thank you, Josh, and thank everybody for coming out. Thank you, Christy, and your team for making this all happen. Y'all make it easy for me.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you.
All right. we'll let everyone get back at it. We're right at the top of the hour, so we're right on time. Thanks again for joining us. Y'all have a great afternoon.